I've had executive coaches who either I've asked or I've asked to help me. A lot of it's like managing your being very aware of the buzz. I probably wasn't aware of my own buzz, but they always tell you should be aware of your buzz, industry, in the company. Have allies, be able to kind of understand whether people are talking about you,
Hmm.
and what is your superpower.
Yeah.
Everyone has like, at some point you have to think about yourself as a brand and what do you do best? Why do people hire you? Um, you know, um, and what's your brand?
Hmm.
Yeah, it sounds silly, but I think it's probably true.
Today on the show, we're joined by a powerhouse behind the screen, Albert Cheng, Vice President of Amazon Prime Video US and former Chief Operating Officer and co-head of Amazon Studios. Albert's helped bring to life some of the most talked about shows on Prime Video, from The Boys to The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, shaping not just what we watch, but how we watch it. Albert went from the sunshine of growing up in Honolulu to the cold winters of Cambridge at MIT, but ultimately ended up in Los Angeles because he was always passionate about entertainment. He started off as an engineer at Boeing before going into management consulting at BCG and getting his MBA at Harvard, where he would become co-president of the Entertainment Club with Hulu founder Jason Kilar. Albert has held senior roles at Disney ABC and has long been a leader at the intersection of entertainment, technology, and innovation. As one of the most prominent Asian American executives in Hollywood, Albert is also paving the way for representation both in front of and behind the camera. In today's conversation, we talk about the evolving world of streaming, building content that connects globally, and what it means to lead authentically in an industry that's constantly rewriting the rules. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Albert Cheng. I'm here with my friend Albert Cheng, head of Prime Video US for Amazon. We have been friends for a few years now, and it's always good to catch up with Albert. He's been amazing when I have advice about anything entertainment related or in that world. He's been able to share his insights. So thank you, Albert, for being here on the podcast.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So let's go back to, where it all began out in Hawaii. And you were born in Hawaii?
I was born in Hawaii. Yeah.
And now, what brought your parents to Hawaii, of all places?
My dad was the professor at the University of Hawaii. So my parents came from China, and then like a lot of folks in their generation, they came to the States to study and eventually settled. And most, my dad was basically a mechanical engineer and became a professor and wound up in Hawaii, and that's where I started from.
So I'm guessing if your dad was a professor, your parents were probably pretty strict?
Yes.
Okay. And were they tiger parents?
Uh, yes and no. Yes and no.
Elaborate.
High expectations, but they did not micromanage.
Mm.
Assuming that micromanagement is under the definition of a tiger
Yeah.
parent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Helicoptering and being all over it. And you have how many siblings?
I have one.
Okay. And so were you the oldest?
I was the oldest,
You're
yes.
the oldest. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So you were the golden child first. And then you attended Punahou,
Yep.
the high school where Obama went to. And what was it like growing up I guess you would know the alternative, but did you sense that being in a majority Asian community in Hawaii and at Punahou helped give you more confidence than you would have if you think otherwise? I mean, you didn't grow up in a different situation, but I've always thought I think now that I want to bring my kids to Hawaii and live there and send my kids to Punahou because, the kids will never feel othered in an environment like that. Is that something that you've, recognized or acknowledged?
Yeah, I think you don't really recognize it until you leave the island and you're in, until you actually start working in corporate America. Like I went to undergrad at MIT, so that doesn't count either.
Same, same.
There's so many Asian people there, and so you don't really, you don't feel it at school. But yeah, I think the one thing about being in Hawaii is the sort of the identity piece around being Asian is not as, you're not as there's not a heightened awareness. There is a general there's still a segregation of ethnic groups
Mm.
within Hawaii, but it isn't as heightened, I think, in terms of being Asian is not as a big deal. It's usually more of Hawaiian and non-Hawaiian,
Mm.
kind of dynamics. So that's more of what you get, if inculcated to when you're
Got
there.
it. Got it.
Yeah.
So like local native Hawaiian versus like Haole, like any outsider, like non.
Right.
Got it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, and I remember the story about you playing piano and was it synth pop rock, like some kind of, you did something in music, I remember, if
Yep.
I recall.
No, I
You
used
took
to
that
write
piano
music.
as a kid and actually used
I
it
took
to be cool.
piano. Yeah, no, I took piano because like all Chinese parents want you to take an instrument, and piano was it. But ultimately, after getting really bored of taking piano, I started writing my own music, and that was more fun to
Oh,
do
that's
over
right,
time.
composing.
Yeah,
Um, Actually, time out. I hear a cracking sound, like a. Do you hear?
I don't hear it.
Okay,
Is
there's
it?
not a. It's not your.
Do you
It's
think
not a
it's from?
Oh, stop. Your laptop's not vibrating or something, is it? Okay, just stop.
Can you hear me?
No, yeah. Now there's no but. There's no sound now. Okay.
Okay.
Did you
It
touch
could
something?
be. It could be interference with whatever.
Oh, okay.
Who
Okay,
knows?
it's gone now. Okay.
Okay.
Um, Back to our regular scheduled programming. All right. All right. So you left, and then after graduating from Puno, you left the nice warm weather of Honolulu to move to freezing cold Boston to attend MIT, where
Hmm.
you were majored in material science engineering.
Yep. Materials engineering. Yep.
And I'm assuming there again, lots of Asians. You joined one of the fraternities for housing. I'm assuming.
I lived in a dorm,
Oh,
so
wow, you are
non-fraternity.
non-conventional for an
Yeah.
MIT kid. I was like, oh, I thought everyone had to because there's no dorms, so you had to.
Yeah.
Um, did you enjoy MIT?
Yeah. No, well, look, I think MIT was probably one of those character building experiences where you go to MIT and you realize, like, what am I doing here? There are, so many more people that are smarter than me. So hopefully I survive
Yeah,
and I can maintain my grades because, when you come out of high school, that's one experience, and then when you get into MIT, where the intensity of the rigor around school, and then on top of that, the people there are brilliant.
yeah,
It's pretty tense. Yeah.
yeah. And you graduated from there, and you went into work. You went to work with Boeing as an engineer to Seattle, building military planes. That lasted all of 1 year.
Yep.
Tell me about that.
Well, it's one of those things where I didn't know what I didn't know what I wanted to do graduating from college, and but Boeing was kind of it. So, I decided to do that and try it, and very quickly realized that is not what I wanted to do. And I actually spent the year while I was working at Boeing trying to figure out what I wanted to do,
Mm,
checking all the boxes off. Like, do I want to go to medical school, law school? Because at the time, actually, I thought I was going to go to law school, but I decided not to.
mm.
And then business school was sort of like the third one on the list, and I applied during that time. I was working at Boeing.
Oh, so you went straight to HBS after that? It wasn't BCG first.
No, what happened was I applied while I was at Boeing. I got admitted into Harvard
You defer.
on a deferred basis.
Mm,
So they said, "Come, we're gonna apply. We're gonna have you come in for the class of '97,
yeah,
but please work 2 more years, and can you work somewhere not at Boeing to give you more experience coming into the class?" So
got it.
that's when I applied to work for BCG for 2 years to give me a little bit more business experience. So
And also find a way to pay for business school after you're done.
that helps too. Yeah.
Very, very good. And so while you were, you were at BCG, you got into business. You were like, I'm not doing this engineering thing. You went to HBS, and then you went back to. Well, I'm assuming you went back to BCG in LA because they were sponsoring you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And what did you learn during your time at BCG? Because, you see a lot of people go into consulting. I mean, I did because we don't know what we want to do in business. So it's kind of like a breadth of experience and exposure.
Mhm.
What did you learn during your time while you were at BCG?
It was I actually loved it there because it was the fastest way to learn about high level strategic business problems at big companies that you wouldn't get going to school. Like, you
Yeah.
don't even get that at going to business school, really.
Yeah.
Because you read it in cases and you don't really actually get to work on it. So I think part of the reason why I did that, and just a little bit of background, when I was in engineering, not only did I realize I did not want to do that, it was really soul searching on what did I want to do. And in the back of my head, it's like I always wanted to be in the entertainment industry, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And so for me to go to business school was probably like the most versatile thing, which is like, okay, I can get a degree. If it doesn't work out in entertainment, I can do something else. But it's like, let's see if I really like it. And I really started to like business a lot more than anything I ever did.
Yeah.
And I think BCG just sort of allowed me to kind of explore and do a lot of different types of projects. So that's really what helped.
So does this go all the way back to your roots of wanting to compose music? Like when did this entertainment thing happen? Because clearly it was something you've been thinking about.
Yeah, you know what, I've always liked entertainment. Most like a lot of people who, as a consumer, but a lot of it I wind up becoming, the creating process too.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think for those that I grew up with and my parents know, like, other than the school stuff, the schoolwork that's a requirement of getting the A's.
Yeah.
I probably was, I did my 10,000 hours of TV before I was the age of 6. I was writing music. I was, co-writing, stuff with folks at school. So it was always a hobby. And usually that's what your parents tell you.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah.
It's a hobby.
Cute, but you gotta go
Yeah.
do your homework.
You gotta make a living. And so
Yeah.
that's not a good thing to do.
Yeah.
And you got to the point where like, oh, I can't get myself not to think about it, and I'm gonna try and figure out how to enter the industry this way.
And so there was never a long-term, like you would want to become partner at Bain, at BCG. Whoops.
No, it's okay.
Whoops.
No, I think my parents would have wanted me to
Yeah,
be
sure.
a partner at
Yeah.
BCG, but not really. And the funny thing was, when I was at BCG, I was really open about it. I was like, I don't want to be a partner. I want you to, if I can, while I'm here, I would love to be on every single entertainment industry case you can give me.
Yeah. Yep.
And part of the reason when I graduated from business school and then went back to BCG, that was my requirement actually.
LA. That's why I ended up in
I will
LA.
transfer me to LA, get every single, I will work on every single
Yeah.
entertainment project, and they were awesome. I really loved my time at BCG
Yeah.
because the partners were just they're very supportive, and they gave me those opportunities. So it was
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
And when you were at BCG, do you recall if there were any Asian partners at the LA office or Boston office?
South Asian,
But there are no East Asian
no East
partners
Asian.
in
No.
either Boston or LA.
That's right.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. And then while you were at HBS, were you participating in a lot of the entertainment clubs too? Because you were kind of building
Yeah.
and paving your way to get into
Totally.
entertainment? Okay.
You got, did entertainment,
Treks
co-president.
and things like that. Yeah.
Yep. Me and Jason Kilar.
Oh wow.
we're both doing, we're both leading the entertainment media club with a couple of other friends, actually. They're all in the same section.
Oh
So,
wow. That's like legendary. That's like lore. For those of us who don't know, Jason Kilar started at Hulu. So it seems like they go way back. That's amazing. And then from BCG, did you get staffed at Fox, and that's how you met them, or you just?
I know. I just after I finished my actually at the time I only needed to fulfill 1 year at BCG for my
To get paid? Wow.
Yeah. They changed that after. They made it longer.
Yeah, they're like, we're not getting ROI on this.
Slipped right
Everyone
under
keeps leaving. Yeah.
Yeah, I slept right under there. So they only had 1 year, and after a year, I was looking around, and there was another former BCG person that I knew at Fox who had gotten promoted into a different role, and his old role was open.
Oh.
And so he said, "Hey, just send me your resume, and I'll get it to my old boss." And I sent it, and then I just got an interview, and then I wound up getting the job and moving over to Fox. So.
And how did you know him again?
He was ex BCG too.
So okay, and you kept in touch with him, or you guys were colleagues from BCG?
It was weird. I'm trying to remember how. I didn't really keep in touch with him. I think it literally was something I had seen on like the jobs they're trying to fill.
Yeah.
Like on monster.com. Remember that?
Dating ourselves.
And then I think for some reason through some connection, I made the connection. Oh, that role is the same role as that. Person did, and I reached out, and it just so happened to work out, and so I literally got my first job from being hired by Jeff Shell, who
Wow.
who is who's at Redbird right now, but they're about to, you know, buy buy and run Paramount.
And then was LinkedIn around back then that you could see all these connections? No.
No,
Yeah, it
LinkedIn's
makes it
like
a lot easier now to see who's what
yeah.
doing what. Um, that's awesome. And so, but you were there for you became a director in less than 2 years. Is that normal for someone who comes out of
Um,
consulting?
well, actually, that was part of the reason why. Well, I don't know. I entered there as a
As
direct.
oh, you came in as director.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And did I'm assuming, like Fox working for Rupert Murdoch. I don't know if you had any direct exposure to him. Oh, you did.
Yeah, it was look, Fox back then was super entrepreneurial. Um and and I would say, when I look back at it, you don't really realize that like that there was everyone in there were in their 20s, and most of the people I work with are actually in pretty senior positions in entertainment, which is shocking. Like
Yeah.
my boss today was literally like two doors down from me.
Oh wow.
And I every day I wind up calling on other folks at other leaders at other studios, and we all
No
used to
Fox.
work together. That yeah,
Oh wow. Because this was back when Fox Sports and FX were brand new, right? Or
very brand new. Yep,
okay, so it was just all you guys were all learning together, very
we're
entrepreneurial.
all making stuff.
And then I guess Disney poached you over because you came in as a VP. So
Mhm.
um, very different culture, I would imagine.
Very different.
Not entrepreneurial,
No, a little more structured.
a little more structured. But you stayed there for 15 years.
Oh yeah.
Like, what was it about Disney that made you stay so long?
I think one when I was at Fox, it was super fun. You got a lot of look. It was a bunch of young guys who got a lot of experience, but we didn't know anything
Yeah.
really. I mean, it was and we were building stuff. Fox Sportsnet, which is now Bally Sports, or actually Diamond
Mm.
Sports now, and FX was early, and it was and I had one direct report. That's how lean we were. Like I have an analyst and I have my biz dev stuff, and uh, I wanted to run a business, and like when you look at the way Fox is run, it's like, how do I actually do that? And so I kind of, when I looked at Disney, the job at the time was being strategy of like their affiliate sales group, and so I thought, you know what, I need a little more stability where I'm actually running a team of like at least 30, 40, 50 people, and start learning how to be a bigger manager and not someone who is a high contributing individual contributor with one direct report. It's like that wasn't great for me long
Hmm.
term. And so I decided to take that. And it was an and there's one thing that's consistent that I think if I look back at everything that got me interested in why I get hired or do things is to build things.
Hmm.
And at the time, Disney had it was the dot com dot bomb or dot bust in 2000, and literally the entire sales team had left, and there was an interim head of sales. Their entire corporate teams have all gone to go chasing the dot com dreams,
Hmm.
and the opportunity was to literally build the sales team from scratch.
Mm.
And so I'm like, oh, here's an opportunity to rebuild sales teams and be an operator and drive revenue for a huge growing business, which was cable at the time.
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah.
And and so I took it. That was a good opportunity for me to actually build something from scratch.
And so you were overseeing like VOD, like video on demand and interactive starting 2000.
Uh,
Like,
well, when I first started, so like when I was at Fox, digital was just digital cable. I'm not saying internet. Digital
yeah,
cable was just beginning. So
that's like DirecTV.
direct to well, it's like when you get into digital, digital channels like MTV
Oh, right,
3000.
right,
Like you
right.
like
All the
right.
extra
They were
cable
telling that
channels.
right that like you already had 100, 200 cable
Yeah,
channels.
now it's
Now
like
they want to go to
thousands. Yeah,
500.
yeah, yeah.
And so I was always interested in that. And the thing was that I was always bugging back in this is 1998 when we were negotiating sports rights deals. That was a lot of the job that I
Hmm.
had was analyzing how much we should pay for regional sports rights for
Comes in handy right now. Yeah.
Dodgers or whatever. And I kept, and this was actually MLB at the time where I was telling Jeff Shell, who was my boss, I said, hey, what do you think about the internet rights? He's looking at me going, why do I care? It's like, you should care. These are 10-year deals.
Hmm.
And I'm already seeing stuff happening on music. And it's like, the broadband stuff is happening. We should figure out how do we protect ourselves in light of like, we can spend all this money. And the next thing you know, things shift over to the internet and you're
Hmm.
kind of like stuck with paying all these rights. And Jeff was like, "Oh, that's nice, Albert. Let's just focus on digital cable. Like I don't know how to value internet rights. I don't want to do it. And that's how MLB.TV got started anyway.
Oh,
So,
wow.
because
Wow.
the league kept those rights, which
Yeah,
for good reason.
totally.
Um, and so when I got to Disney, my primary job was to reboot the sales team. So it was very traditional. How do we sell cable channels to cable operators? So, my job was essentially negotiating with people like Comcast and DirecTV. So, when those channels go dark
Yeah.
and can't get to, I would be in those, there would be many
Oh,
of them.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, the
Where your
blackout.
channels
Yeah.
go dark
The blackouts.
and
Yeah.
yeah, blackouts and everything.
Yeah.
Um, but I said I will do that, but I'm really interested in broadband. Like, is there anything that I could do on the side as a part of my job to kind of
Yeah.
explore how Disney gets into that? And so he said yes, because no one else was doing it. So that became kind of a huge thing for me to like talk a lot about, both to my boss and also the head of our television division at the time.
Got it. So sales distribution strategy, meaning you had to work with Comcast and all these other like
Hmm.
essentially sales. That
Yeah.
is not typical role for I feel like when I went to Stanford for business school, we didn't have a sales class, and I feel like one of my biggest complaints about going to business school is that there wasn't a sales class, because that's probably the most important skill of all.
Hmm.
It's not typical to see that many Asians in sales roles. Not that you were selling ads or anything like that, but tell me about like what was that like? Because you don't. I think it's a super important skill to have, but clearly you were going out to Philadelphia to Comcast and doing these deals. You don't see that many Asian people going out there and doing that. Like, I'm sure you didn't think about it at the time, but do you see that like as something today? It's like there aren't that many Asians in sales roles.
Not as many. Maybe it's just one of those things where, it's not in our culture. It's not something that it's like that likely comes to mind. You
Yeah,
know, uh, and I fell into that because by the nature of I was a strategy person who was also overseeing national accounts. So
mm.
I had to look at my job was to make sure that our rate cards and all of our
Yeah,
economics were going to flow over the next 10
yeah.
years. And then I also oversaw all of the key salespeople. So like my direct reports were actually the salespeople,
Ah,
right? So, but when it came down to negotiating the final contracts and everything, I would go to Philadelphia, and then we would, and usually, and part of and I don't know whether that would have been my role typically, but because I was so infatuated with protecting ourselves with the internet,
yeah,
giving us so much, like I would always be in the middle of a negotiation, trying to make sure that we got enough flexibility to be able to do something in case the consumer shifted. And this is
yeah,
before the internet
yeah.
thing happened, right? It's just
I mean, that must give you leverage if they probably don't even care about it. They're not even thinking about it. You're like, no, let's just put this clause in there. Just, make sure we
yeah.
agree this. I mean, it's very prescient to what you're doing now I mean, this is probably I'm assuming why Amazon brought you over, and you're doing deals with the NFL and, NBA and, now for Prime Video. Um, I'm assuming that when you were at Disney, you were there for 15 years, and you had to navigate a lot of politics. I mean, everything I know about Disney is it's pretty, not, I would say, tough place to work, but there's a lot of politics involved, and like any big company. How did you navigate that, or was it, you didn't? Do you feel like you had to play the game to navigate that, or was you just worked hard and got recognized for it? Because that rarely happens, just doing the work.
Yeah. So here's what I would say, and this is what I tell a lot of folks in terms of how they look at career over time. I think one of the most key things that I think as key inputs into accelerating your trajectory, a lot of it has to do with sponsorship.
Mm.
And when I went to Disney, I had a lot of sponsors. My first boss, I had the, television division head also as a sponsor. They were always looking at um, they were always looking at my career and trying to figure out how to get me to leadership levels when they came open. Um, and and yes, there's a lot of politics at Disney, but I also think I wound up building a reputation for being actually just the opposite, which is
Mm.
not political. So yeah, I think my bosses tend to wind up working the politics. My job was like, you know what, recognize it. You kind of
Yeah.
have to know what the politics are, But I think ultimately I just led with here's the idea, and I had to convince people
Mm.
about the idea and not about what the power structure looked like.
But
You know,
there is a lot of politics in getting people to buy into your ideas too, though. I mean, you have to know the right people to get buy-in from.
yeah, yes, and you also have to understand. So I'll give you a good example. I think part of my career was is defined by digital, and as I've seen, right, I've always been super focused on that, partly out of personal interest, but I also think I was so focused on it that in terms of the implications, that I think the conversations I had with my bosses, with Bob Iger, like Bob Iger was actually my first mentor when I got to Disney in 2000. This was before he was CEO. So,
Wow.
the conversations I would have with him, these are all the things I said, these are super important for the company to think through. And but I knew that when Anne Sweeney, who was the head of the TV, said put me in charge of digital for the television group, one of the first things that I said is like, here's how I'm going to set it up. I will be accountable for the P&L of all of our investments in digital and our revenues, but it's going to be a ghost P&L because everything I make will flow into the traditional guys. So even though you're my boss, I kind of have five bosses: the Disney Channel head, the ABC head, the ABC Family head, the ABC News head,
Yep.
and the SoapNet or the
Yep.
daytime TV. They're going to be essentially my bosses because if I don't make the money, I'm going to have five people breathing down my neck,
Hmm.
right, rather than just you. And she thought that was kind of unusual, right? And even with the finance guys, they would keep saying, "Hey, Albert, this is your business." I would always say, "Nope, stop. This is our business. I'm just the caretaker of this, and if I lose money, you can get on my butt." And so the entertainment heads, they all had their own sort of like personalities and agendas, but I that's how I would always start. Like, I'm here to help grow your business. It's not because I knew already when you go into this thing where it's called digital and the whole company's focused on it as a strategic priority, everyone's going to want to
Peace.
take credit for it,
Yeah.
right? It's like, I'm not going to take credit for it. You guys can take credit for it because it's going to be reported through your P&Ls,
Yeah.
and I'm just going to be here in the background.
Hmm. Interesting.
And that actually got me to be able to do a lot of work in 10 years without getting fired at, or having to do the machinations
Yeah.
of the political game, which I personally I don't really like. It's
Yeah.
not great, but
Sure. But I mean, you had to by speaking up that way and going to Anne and saying that you were taking credit for it because you put yourself out there as like, hey, all of you, like you can get this revenue is gonna be yours, but I need to be able to do this. But then that builds this reliance on you because you basically built this extra business for them and revenue streams. So it's like, well, you do get credit without having to go to out there and sell your like promote yourself as doing so. But I mean that's invaluable for them too, right?
Yeah, well, I think part of it is just the politics is a lot about optics. And
Yeah.
so when you have the president of Disney Channel going to Bob Iger talking about their business and including digital, and I'm
Yeah.
not in that room,
Yeah.
that works for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Bob knows it's you. If he didn't, they could take credit for it, but he knew it was you. I mean, let's take a step back though. But you had like one of the things I think I feel like Asian Americans don't understand is the value of sponsorship. Like, how did you even build these relationships with sponsors? Like, why did these guys want to help you out?
Uh, it's I for the to this I don't know.
Not helpful, Albert.
I know it's not helpful. I got lucky. I had some people who um recruiters. I don't know. Like, you look you just part of it. I had recruiters talking me up. Maybe I don't know. I had generated enough of a reputation that, especially in the entertainment industry, where people know people, and maybe I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe the people I work with at Fox who knew people at Disney say, hey, you should actually talk to Albert.
Yeah.
Use all these things where people say, here's like people. It's funny when I was at Fox, there were people who said, Albert, like, if you ever get a chance to work for Anne Sweeney's business, you should jump at it. I'm like, huh. Like, and I didn't know Anne Sweeney at the time. I read
Mm.
about her. It's like she had a really great reputation, and she had been at Fox, and then she had moved on to Disney. And then by the time I started at Disney, Anne had already knew who I was, and I'm like,
Mm.
oh, that's unusual.
Yeah.
So, and through
Well,
my
they were
career,
talking about her. They were talking about you too to her, like on the other
probably,
end too.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that too. So I think, I've gone through, I've had executive coaches who either I've asked or, I've asked to help me. A lot of it's like managing being very aware of the buzz. I probably wasn't aware of my own buzz, but they always tell you you should be aware of your buzz, industry, in the company, have allies, be able to kind of understand whether people are talking about you,
Hmm.
and what is your superpower. You know,
Yeah.
everyone has like, at some point you have to think about yourself as a brand and what do you do best? Why do people hire you? Um, you know, um, and what's your brand?
Hmm.
It's like it sounds silly, but I think it's probably true.
No, I mean, I think this is what I talk about, and like with Professor Pfeffer from Stanford, is like your power comes from building your brand. If you don't have a brand, then you probably people don't even know you exist, or you're pretty invisible because they don't know why they should hire you or why they should promote you because they don't know what you stand for. But it sounds like you almost didn't have to build your brand. Your reputation kind of, carried through your network and people you knew. Like you didn't have to talk yourself up because other people were talking you up for you. Um, do you feel like that you were ever intentional about networking in your career?
Uh, no, I was never intentional in networking. I'm horrible at it.
Yes, you leave parties early and everything. So
Yes, and you know how I hate this. Yeah, actually, I'm really, and it's the irony of it is I'm in the entertainment industry, what it's all
yeah,
about working.
yeah.
Um, but um, but I never was really intentional. I think my I hope that over the course of my career, it's basically my work stands for itself.
Hmm.
Maybe that's probably why and I'm hoping that's kind of how that buzz happens, which is, just doing the best I can and doing the work really.
Yeah. I mean, that's antithetical to what I'm trying to teach people to get out there. And then it's like your work speaks for itself, but you have to make sure you get credit for it. They're seen. But your sponsors and people around you who know you, they're aware of your work. So I mean, that's not an accident. It has to be. I imagine that you have built strong relationships, not in a networky way, but a very like authentic and organic way with people that you work with. And so I mean, like we've met in person like a handful of times, but I we feel like old friends, and it's kind of like that. Oh, I can see how if the people you work with feel that way with you too, they want to help you. It's not like you're angling for something or a need.
Yeah.
Um, do you? I'm sure it's like you're not intentional about this, but is there something you could say about like managing up or people that you've worked with in the past that has helped? I mean, and coaches probably have talked to you about this too.
Yeah. I think if what I would say, one of the things I think is that's super important. I think even that I think Asian culture can be debilitating, and I've had to work through this myself, through it, through it myself. Actually, a lot of it's communication, which I think a lot of Asian colleagues here that I observe like that have a hard time getting promoted, it's like wow, they're really quiet.
Mm-hmm.
I am not a quiet person.
Mm-hmm.
I am quiet sometimes, but when I don't have anything to say, but when I have something to say, I will like say it, and I think communication um, is so important both in terms of big crowds and
Mm-hmm.
also small, like at the one-on-one level to a small group level to a large group level. Like it's super important to be able to articulate and know your audience. It's like all these things that I think helped because even though I don't network, when I'm in a meeting and there's a point I'm going to make, it's like senior leaders would go, "Oh my God, he was right."
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I think it's those it's not for ego. It's not to make a point. It's not to win something. It's
Yeah.
to just sort of like drive the conversation so that we're all getting to the right decisions. It's like, it's what Harvard Business School trains you to do. Although,
Yeah.
sometimes, I don't realize that, but like how you move the conversation and how you show up in these meetings actually drives your reputation. And it's not just about networking.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes I think, even my Asian colleagues who aren't going to speak up, even though they know the answer, it's like I'm looking at them. You know the answer. Please say it. you know,
Yeah.
and they're just shy because I think in some ways, the hierarchy, our filial piety and Confucianism, Confucianism has prevented us from being just saying what we think.
Vocal.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, and Jane Hyun, she wrote
Mm-hmm.
Breaking the Bamboo Ceiling. another person very pivotal, and I think she knows it. But early in my career, really, starting at Disney, I met her, I think through, I'm trying to remember how I met her. I always I think it was through a nonprofit organization in cable that was focused on minorities. She had come and she said, "Hey, I want you to read my book and let's meet." So I did meet her when I was at Disney, and I read her book, and I'm like, "Oh my God, I didn't even know this was
Mm.
happening." And it started to click, which is like I had a hard time getting promoted at Fox because I was not as vocal. And then when I got to Disney, I was promoted faster only because I had learned from my mistakes. And then
Mm.
on top of that, I was in an environment, as political as it is, my sponsors were giving me the room to actually grow and be okay with uh, trying to overcome my own personal sort of baggage,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that helped a lot. And I think that's kind of, you know, key to how I built that.
And did you ever have any explicit conversations with your sponsors about any of this, or was it just they gave
No,
you
I
the
think
platform and they gave you, uh, you know, a longer leash to go figure stuff out yourself?
Yeah, I think so. And it's also the way the culture works. Sometimes I always tell people you have to figure out where along in your career development, where do you think you can flourish or work on things that you feel that you have to work on.
Yeah.
So, for example, Fox was going to be really hard. You know, it's a very masculine oriented culture. You know, in order to get your point in, you have to fight your way in.
Yeah.
And someone who's a little bit more introverted, kind of like, I don't know when to get in.
Yeah.
People are shouting over each other, and I
Yeah.
feel like I can't. Disney was different.
Mm.
You have a little bit more of a platform. People do hear you out. And also, my sponsors have always allowed discussions and forums where everyone had a voice, right? So, and sometimes they look at me like, sounds like you have something to say,
You'll
Albert.
get
Say
cold
it.
called. Yeah.
I'm like, yep, well, here's what, so there
Yeah.
was the way these things happen
Yeah. The culture was
allowed me to,
different. Yeah.
yeah. And even when I'll say, like, there would be points in time when I was at Disney, I told my boss, I said, hey, are you supportive of me taking a speakers class? Because I saw this one woman who's really good, and she's like, yep, go take it. And I took her class for one day. The company sponsored it, and it really pushed me to think about like, uh, how am I showing up in my conversations? And a
Yeah.
lot of it was, Albert, what's wrong? What is your issue? I said, like, I don't know if I have, quote, what a lot of people say, executive presence.
Mm-hmm.
So that's bullshit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by that? I said, well, I
Yeah.
don't know how I come across. She said, okay, let's do this. So she literally went through an exercise with me, videotaped me, and then she said, I need you to say and yell at me, like just be super hard, blah, blah, blah. And I did it. And then she said, let's take a look at that. And then she played it back, she said, do you think you come across harsh or maniacal or whatever? It's like, no. So how did it feel in your head? And that was the whole point. I think it's in
Yeah.
your head,
Yeah.
you know? Um, I probably over rotated it. Probably over rotated over it now, and we'll probably a little more hard.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where I think you start to, every little thing. As long as you're aware of the shortcomings, and you figure out how am I going to work on this,
Yeah.
you know, I was able to get that chance.
And so you took the initiative. You recognized that that you needed more work on public speaking and showing up. And this was not just for public speaking. I think a lot of people mistake this as, oh, if you go to like learn how to speak or speech, these types of speech coaches, that you're getting ready to speak to some TED talk or something. But this carries on in meetings of 5 people,
Yep.
or even one-on-one, but how people see you, and like you said, how you show up. Do you feel like that? Like, what was the trigger that made you say, "Oh, I need to get this coach or go to this class"?
I think I kind of always knew in my
Mm.
head that it was something like I'm very maybe I'm more self-aware or probably over self-aware. Sometimes I probably think it's a problem, but it's not. But it's my own observation. Every year I to go through a
Mm.
inspection of like, okay, what did I do right this year? Could I have done better? Where do I need to work on? Um, and that's been sort of typical. That even goes beyond my parents, like, holding high targets. It's sort of
Yeah.
like when I was even in high school, it was more about like, here are the things that I think I need to do as extracurriculars
Yeah.
because I thought it was good for me long term,
Mm.
So,
Like a holistic view of like how do I get better in
yeah.
each year. And so it sounds like you've you have you have sponsors, you built up kind of your presence and understood how you need to be seen in the brand, but you never actually had to be self-promotional about it. You didn't have to, you're like, oh, I don't try to go out there and schmooze and for the sake of schmoozing. But clearly throughout your career, you've built these relationships, and you did have to find a place that worked for you, because Fox, the culture wasn't right. I find that a lot of people I talk to are at jobs that they're like, I don't know that I'm going to get anywhere in here, and I tell them leave, because if it's a sign that you're not going to make it there, maybe you find another place that is a better fit for you. And it sounds like that was the case for Fox to Disney.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very much so.
Do you feel like so? I mean, I guess one of the things I try to encourage people to do is to find the right culture for you. Do you feel like it's possible to change? Because you did have to adapt while you were at Disney. It's not like you said, okay, well, it's not working out here, so I'm going to go somewhere else. Because I do find people sometimes leave too quickly too before I figure out how to make it work. Did you ever feel like at Disney you thought maybe this isn't right for me either, and that you want to move on, or like you just?
I probably well, I think it was no, I think well, once you have to be able to understand how the culture works, and then the question is, then how do you modify the way you think about managing or leading or whatever it is, to be able to kind of understand what is the success criteria in that, in that culture, and can you modify the way you operate to succeed in that environment. It's hard for me to say whether Disney was the right one for me from a longer term point of view. I think Disney was the right time for me when I was that early in my career and figuring out how to like build and have a more structured environment to start leading bigger teams. But I was really lucky in Disney during the time that I was there, that I got to do some really fun stuff that was sort of, I would say, I was sort of ring fenced from the broader Disney culture.
On the digital
primarily
side.
because it was new.
Yeah.
Not many people knew anything about digital, neither did I. We're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so I got a pretty long leash,
Yeah. Yeah.
and as long as I wasn't coming to, Anne Sweeney or Bob Iger for like, I need to buy this company,
Right.
or I need to, spend, $100-200 million, then I was going to be okay, and they would leave me alone. And I never did that. I literally made the company money in year 2. And then by the time I left, I was like generating almost like 600 million in operating income for the company. So you're like, all right, like no one's gonna touch this until until it becomes a problem. So the number one goal is like, don't let it be a problem. But they really let me do a lot of stuff, and like I think a lot of our competitors who were looking at what we were doing were like a little envious because we were moving very quickly,
fast.
And part of it was just because we were kind of left alone.
Do you find one of the rules of power that Jeffrey ever talks about is breaking the rules, is like a way to stand out to build power? Do you have examples of in your career that you've kind of broken the rules to get, because if you play by the rules all the time, then you kind of blend in. But if you do things that, and it sounded like digital was one way that, because you were very gung ho on that. But are there examples in your career that's helped you build power?
I think everything that I, as I said, I think if the brand would be Albert builds things from scratch or new that have high degrees of ambiguity.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is because maybe for whatever reason I kind of knew where it should go, and so no one else thought about it, and so like, okay, Albert will figure it out.
Yeah, it's the whole puck analogy of like where the puck's
and
going.
so you and there's everything that I've done in each of these companies have always been new, so there's no rules to really kind of break. That you're kind of building the rules and adopting them, right? So I don't think I've never actually had to break anything. It's more like, well, what are the rules?
Yeah, you're creating the rules, or you're at the forefront of it, so everyone's just following you.
Yeah, I mean, for example, I'll give you a good example. To this day, why do we have up to the 28-day window on a VOD of a broadcast day after program? It's like, that's because I I was with the lawyers and the business fairs and made it up.
You came up with
You know,
that?
it's like but it was all based off of data in terms of all that
Yeah,
kind of stuff. But it's like,
you
oh
made the
well,
rules.
I made the rules. So I think it's less. I think that's why I always say if you there are ways of succeeding. I think my thing was succeeding by building new things that had not
Yeah,
been done before,
yeah,
and so that helped.
yeah. I mean, if you break into a market like an Airbnb or Netflix or Uber, something that hasn't been done before, you have a lot. You can basically build the rules in the game. Um, so moved on to Amazon, and been around since 2010. You came in 2015. Is that right?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Mm. And now you're running Prime Video in the US. Big bets. Like it's a lot of I'm obviously signing the contract with the NFL and then big 11-year contract with the NBA and WNBA, which is awesome, by the way. I think cricket and some other sports. Picking greenlighting shows like Foul Out and Jury Duty. These are expensive projects. Different than digital and going out and doing distribution partners. Like you're actually picking content and property. This is, I imagine, as the younger you who composed music and wrote stuff, this is what you wanted to do. Like you wanted to pick what, like the stories to tell, what you wanted to watch, what you wanted your kids to watch, what America was watching. Um, that journey, that arc, is this what you hope to? I mean, I'm not saying this is your career, but this is what you hope to be doing.
Um, uh, One, I don't think I would have imagined me doing this job.
Yeah,
So, if it had, older me would have been completely shocking younger me. Is it what I love to do? I love it. Yeah, I love to do this. Um, but I actually, the weirdest thing is that I actually love making TV shows and movies more than I actually picking. So,
mm,
or picking or even being a part of the business side of it.
yeah,
So when I started at part of the reason why I left Disney to come to Amazon was because I was hired to actually build Amazon Studios.
mm-hmm.
So and there was 80 people at the time, and it was like, oh, no one's ever again, see, there's a theme here.
New,
No one's ever built a studio from scratch,
yeah,
and so this was a great opportunity because I'm at a tech company building a studio from scratch, and then and making our own content. And I think that was so much fun. And then this Prime Video job, which is what I've been doing the last 2 years, is now sort of leading the P&L and L and the growth part of our U.S. business, of which studios is a part of it, as a sports is a part of it.
mm-hmm.
But now I have to not only care about what we make or the sports leagues, but I actually have to care about how Paramount is doing on our service because we
Mm,
sell Paramount Plus, or how Warner Brothers is doing with Max.
yeah,
These are our partners now, and I have to make sure that they are also generating their. So like in some strange way, it's sort of like I'm caretaking a digital platform, sort of
yeah,
going back to what I was doing at
cable,
Disney, but at a
yeah,
larger scale.
yeah.
Like how do we monetize and distribute and create an ecosystem for our industry to continue to grow? All right,
Yeah.
that's fun too.
I mean, I guess I didn't even think about it. I thought you was like you're picking, but when I go to Prime, you have your platform too. You have to make all these other folks happy, because they're all paying you as well, or on there. So,
Hmm.
um, I mean, is there the stakes are much higher, obviously, as you get higher up in your role, and there are other people that want your job too. Like, is that again? You don't think about the politics, but has your thought about this role or a job when you get higher and higher, has that changed about how you see your day to day, or you just keep, because there's a whole argument you just keep your head down and keep working hard, but that's what gets a lot of Asians to be invisible and not seen, that they have to play a bigger game, and you obviously have relationships throughout Hollywood that help keep you in a position, but do you think about those things?
Uh, Not really, because at the end, it's like because it goes to the fundamental thing is if I'm not providing value, then I should go,
Mm,
right? So like the you have to this is it's not always a meritocracy. It is not a
it's
meritocracy,
not.
not an American
Yeah,
corporate culture, but but I sure as heck want to make sure that if I do get a job, it's based on what I can actually do. If I'm not
yeah,
doing it, then I get it.
yeah,
Do I is there are there have I been subject to politics where I've been harmed by politics? Absolutely. But the underlying, it's like if you still believe in your ability, doesn't matter where you go, whatever it is, and save up. Don't over whatever money you earn. Don't live a lifestyle that's beyond your means.
Hmm.
And so you can always get the next thing. But I do think that's important when you are hired at this level. And as I start to learn more about it, it's like you can't just deliver. Like in other words, for me hitting my P&L is not going to be enough. It's going to be like, what do you represent? How do you drive an entire organization, its culture to keep achieving? And that's one thing that I think it's that I try really hard, which is I'm never really satisfied. Like I always tell my team, they're probably like, ah, man, Albert's a hard ass. Like, how are we gonna hit that? Like I will set really ambitious goals. It comes from my
Yeah.
parents. It's like,
Yeah.
you want to hit this? Nope. I'm saying you got to hit this,
Hmm.
and they'll go like, that's impossible. It's like, nope, it's not impossible. And the worst part about it is then I use data and say it's possible, but you're not thinking big enough because here's the real data and you need to get from point A to point B, and it's been proven that you can get there, but you got to figure out how to think bigger. And you're
Yeah.
not, right?
Yeah.
So hopefully it's inspirational, or sometimes people will freak out and go, "We'll never hit it," And
Yeah. Yeah.
it,
But if you are always meeting expectations or at expectations, you're not going to get much credit for doing your job.
especially at Amazon.
Yeah.
At Amazon, it's not enough. Like
Yes.
hitting your goals is not enough. It's
Yeah.
about exceeding your goals. So,
Yeah. Especially in Amazon. I mean, I think in any job, a lot of folks who are meeting, they don't get promoted because they're doing what their job title says. So why would they assume that they deserve any more than that? Like you
Yep.
have to go above and beyond if you want to get the job you're reaching for.
Yeah, and it doesn't even matter what level you're at. Like sometimes if you think that, oh, once I reach the top, I'm good, I'm done. Like, nope, sorry, actually
Yeah.
keeps going.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's always a boss who's deciding. So, and then, so it's, you've, the there aren't many Asian American executives on corporate boards, and you've served on two board of directors at Lifetime and at BMI. Can you tell me how you got those seats?
Yeah, those are primarily, don't read too much into them. I didn't get recruited for them.
Oh, okay.
Both of those were the result of Disney owning. So Disney owned was an equity owner in Lifetime Television A&E Networks. So I was on my boss put me on the board because at the time we were trying to figure out helping them think about digital.
Uh,
And then BMI is for those who don't know, it's a performance rights organization that collects royalties on behalf of songwriters where play like Taylor Swift is a BMI artist. So in a bar or whatever, like we collect money, and the thing is that was actually started by broadcast
huh.
stations. And so because I was ABC at the time, ABC was a equity quote owner as part of this nonprofit, and so therefore I sat on the board, kind of representing the ABC stations and
Got it.
that sort of thing. Yeah,
So basically, part of the job. You're
it's
being.
part of the.
You didn't go. Okay, got it. No, I mean, so one of the things, you are not. You would say you are an introvert. You're not an extrovert.
I'm probably more. I've done those
You're
Briggs
Myers Briggs. Yeah.
Myers Briggs, and they basically I'm right in the middle.
Middle. You're an X. Okay. Yeah.
Either one.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But you, I would say you don't intentionally go out and network for the sake of networking, but I would say you're very good with people. You're like, in a group, like you're very comfortable with people. You like talking to people who are interesting. Throughout your career, you've built very strong relationships with very important people. Do you do much maintenance of those relationships, or do you feel like you should do better, or like is that because I mean a lot of that leads
Yeah.
to career success.
Yeah. Wish I could do better. Most of my interactions have always been work related. I do pretty well maintaining relationships of people of my past actually that
Good.
can that actually have nothing that could do nothing for my career. So there are people like I still my Aunt Sweeney is retired. I still contact her. I just had breakfast with her about a month ago. She does sit on the board of Netflix, so we have to be careful what we talk about.
Mm.
But it's one of those things where I do still keep in touch. But most of the people that I interact with are, for the most part, all part of what I do day to day. I have been really lucky where I have interacted and worked with people of influence and done well with them.
Hmm.
In other words, I mean, to this day, I'm still floored by my interactions with Steve Jobs,
Yeah.
who like, wow, I'm probably one of the few Disney execs he's never yelled at, uh, or actually complimented on the team's work. I mean, like that's very rare to get a kudos from
Steve Jobs. Yeah.
Steve Jobs, and really rare.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the fact that we got that, my team got it, a lot of it, all the work we did on the iPad when we launched ABC Player on the
Yeah.
iPad in 2008 or something like 10,
Yeah.
maybe 2010. And then working with Jeff Bezos, Bob Iger was my mentor. These are all, and Jeff Shell, was hired me, gave me my first job in entertainment. I do still keep in touch with Jeff Shell. I used to also keep in touch with Steve Burke when he was CEO of Comcast, but really just out of just keeping in touch.
Yeah.
I was so focused on what I was doing
Yeah.
that just really just learning from them more than anything else.
Yeah. I mean, I think those are some of the best relationships because you don't need anything from them. And so it's genuine if you're actually reaching out and trying to, you just want to keep in touch. But those folks still are very powerful people that still have influence in the industry, whether they're retired or not. Bob was retired and then he wasn't. So you never know. But yeah, I mean, one thing I do feel like a lot of Asians I speak to, and, me personally, it sounds different than how you did it. Most people socialize outside of work. They do their job, and then that's their job, and then they go and they socialize outside of work, and people they're comfortable with, and they already know. But it sounds like you have most relationships with people at work. Is there not a blurring of the line, or you don't have a kind of a church and state relationship with?
Well, I think the people it is still church and state. Even with people, I think part of the nature is that I spend so much time at work. My wife will tell me that basically it's either wife or my work.
Yeah, yeah,
and so it naturally, I have regrets where people outside my work invited me to a function that I just can't. Like, of course, like I would love to have been able to have a network outside of my work life. It's just in my entire 25, 27 years doing this stuff, it's been super hard because every minute of the day is dictated by something I need to do for the job, and that's a trade-off you make. And but the people that I interact with, they're all it does blend. There's you work with them, you like, or I used to work with them. It's all it's all blended together. So
yeah, they're people, and so you find interesting things about them as well. And would you say you keep in touch with a lot of your MIT or HBS friends?
Some, not all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess they're all over the country, so yeah.
And they're just as busy.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, no, so I mean, I appreciate knowing how busy work is and how time consuming it is. I really appreciate you taking this time, Albert. One thing I want to know is, like, you were started off as a creative, and this was a hobby your parents told you, but if you could have chosen an alternate career path, and didn't go down business, what would it have been? If your parents didn't have any say in the matter.
That's a good question. I think if I really, really wanted to do something, there's two types of a developer, real estate developer.
Oh, interesting.
The
creative side.
Like, what is that all about? So I like, I like building spaces.
Yeah.
But the other thing too, which is not ruled out ever, is I think I would probably want to be a producer of TV or film. And I'm not ruling that out either.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe what I do after this job.
That's the next thing.
You're
kind of doing that a little bit, but you want to have full control of like a show.
Well, I'm even closer to the creative, right? So
yeah.
Rather than a buyer, which is what we've been doing, I think it's more of a seller. It's a little more hustle. I don't know if I have the energy to do that when I get older, but buying rights, optioning, making stuff. It would be even great if I could make stuff that had Asian representation in it. So that's fun to me. I like, and I'm very, when it comes to nuts and bolts of like building things, right? So it's sort of like, if I can figure out how to make film or television on budget, on time, with the right talent and the right whatever, I could probably do that and have, enjoy that. that other sort of career part of it.
That's awesome. Well, Albert, if you do ever have to raise money for a project, I've done that before, and so I'd love to help you make that happen. Um, Thanks so much for taking the time and for your insight and advice. I think hearing from someone who's gone through it and made it through the ranks to where you are, and understanding what it takes, and even that someone as accomplished as you, well, schools and everything else, you still see the need to improve, and taking speech classes and other things. I mean, I think it's something, acknowledging what our weaknesses are is the only way we can actually get better. So really, really appreciate the time, Albert. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Yeah, no problem. And one last plug, which
Yeah.
I think is really important, is that I think is really important, particularly in the business that I'm in, is have more Asians represented in executive ranks. And so part of that, and this, Dave, I'm on the board of CAPE. I co-founded a leadership fellowship, leaders fellowship, and every year we bring in 6 to 8 promising young Asian creative execs, and a lot of the things I've talked to with you today, and a lot of things that I pulled from Jay and Hyun's book, like I transfer that, and hopefully people will start to understand, like, here's what it's going to take you to get promoted, because we need more and more people that have Asian background to be in the positions of making decisions and championing these stories, because you won't get it. Like I can't be the only one in the studio where I'm saying, why is this? There have been a number of times where things have come across where, like, this show needs to have an Asian director. We should not. We need to.
Yeah.
I've had talent come and reach and, can you help me? Your studio team are pushing off Asian directors or whatever. Like, okay, and the next thing I know is, like, I'm emailing and saying, this cannot happen. This will be bad.
Yeah.
Even if it takes forever, you need an Asian director.
Yeah.
And so these are things that are really important. Without representation, we're not going to get it in the screen.
Yeah.
And so the hard part about it is, Asian parents, this is not a career that most people get encouraged to do, but people feel very strongly and have the talent to be able to do this.
Yeah.
Asian kids should try to be leaders in this industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
it makes an impact for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, it affects everyone. It's like, people forget that politics and power comes from representation. If people don't see you on the screen, you don't have a voice. So,
Amen.
I think it's I think it's like, people. It's like, it's a little bit lost. And I have cousins, I have aunties and uncles who force their kids to be engineers or doctors, and I can't tell you,
Painful.
that's not the right job for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
I mean, the McKinsey report said it. It's like the more representation we have is because there are more off-screen people that are in roles of power and influence within the studios, or in, like, the folks that are actually greenlighting these projects, the casting directors and others. If you don't have any people there, who's going to stop, the creators just from not including us?
Yep.
And so I think it's super important. And capeusa.org, Michelle Sugihara, I think she's doing amazing work. A proud donor circle member. I think the work they're doing is so important, because I think I've talked about this before, that we can want all these Asian stories to be told on these shows, but until you get folks, if we're the only ones watching them, it's not going to matter. If you get more people like John Chu, who gets the credibility from doing movies like Crazy Rich Asians, to do Wicked and put in Michelle Yeoh and Boeing Yang, if it wasn't for him, there was not going to be Madame Morrible that was going to be an Asian woman. There was not going to be, another student at Shiz University that was going to be, an Asian male. I mean, these are the positions that we have to, work with each other and help each other get to put more faces that look like us on screen. And that's when you have more power. Like Albert said, I mean, I think CAPE is doing an amazing job with this. And, if you're miserable at your job at a consulting firm, investment bank, whatever, there are finance roles and other roles in strategy at studios that could use a smart Asian American executive. In fact, I'm sure Amazon might be hiring for some. Oh, no, I don't know if they are. But I know a guy who might be able to help you out. So let me know. But no, thanks for that.
We over-index on Asians here at Amazon Studio.
It is a tech company.
We actually have more than actually what's probably allocated, but that's good.
You can't say there's allocation, Albert.
Yeah, but I think it's important that we have, as much as we say we have more Asians than what we would typically have in the general populace here.
Yes.
um, they are not at the right levels
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
make the decisions. They're going to be great developers, advocates, but at the end, in order to exert that kind of, leaning in and saying, nope, you cannot change the showrunner
Yeah.
to a non-Asian person for this
Yeah.
show that features Asian characters that has
Yeah.
happened before.
Yep.
Um, that you need someone who has the power to lean in and say no, right?
Yeah.
Some Asian creative execs can't say no because it's the boss or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
important.
And I mean, I think until we realize how we need to lean in and get power, and it's not a dirty word to have power. With power, you can do important and good things. We have to own it. We have to try and get power. Otherwise, we're not gonna have any influence.
Yeah.
So thank you for all of this, Albert. And I think we want to see more folks like you up there, and this is learning from you and how you got there is going to help a lot of folks. So thanks so much for your time, Albert,
Okay.
again, and hopefully I'll see you soon. And
All right.
Happy
Thanks,
New
Dave.
Year.
Happy New Year. Thanks
All
for
right.
doing this.
All right. Thanks, Albert. Thanks for listening to this episode of Hyphen Nation. Please subscribe to my Substack at www.davelou.com and follow us on Instagram at the Hyphen Nation and LinkedIn at Hyphen Nation.